JT, we're here, man.
It's unbelievable.
How'd we get here, dude?
It's really, really exciting. I mean, how long ago was it that we talked about actually doing this?
About 2.5 years ago, probably.
At the Village at DC Ranch,
yeah,
right?
Exactly right.
Yep, we talked about it, and we've always had this idea of combating what's going on in Wall Street and also creating an experience for our clients that is well beyond traditional investment management.
Well, that's exactly right, man. There's so many different solutions for people who are on the progressive side of the political scale, and there's very little for people on the conservative side, if not none. And I thought that our idea back to 2.5 years ago or so was kind of far-fetched until we started putting pen to paper and actually executing on it. And now we're really 2 years into having our own wealth management practice, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and we had a lot of naysayers. Right?
Yes.
A lot of people laughed at us. A lot of people said, this will never work.
Well, my favorite one is, sorry to interrupt you, my favorite one is when, someone once asked Michael Jordan, why don't you talk about politics? And Michael Jordan said, well, Republicans buy sneakers too, right? Mm-hmm. And our whole bet is that everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but most people tend to agree with the traditional values and conservative principles when you really think about it. I mean, nobody wants their little girl to be going to a bathroom with a grown-ass man, right, in a public restroom.
Amen.
Nobody wants that. Nobody really wants to be force-fed social initiatives that is against your religion, right? Why even put up with that? So from our point of view, this was a no-brainer for us to do. We just were in a situation where it's never been done before.
Never had been done. We're the first to do it. And, and I think, to your point, I think most Americans, the overwhelming majority of Americans, they just want to be left alone.
Yes, exactly right.
Right? They don't want agendas forced down their throats. They don't want to be told and belittled because they misgendered somebody, or whatnot. And and I think most Americans are accepting, right, as long as it's not shoved down their throats.
Exactly
and
right.
Forcing them to believe it. And so that's why we founded Lionheart, which was to really give a voice through investments and beyond for our clients, right? That align with traditional conservative values and principles.
Exactly right.
An if not completely underrepresented group in our industry, in the financial services industry.
That's exactly right. And that's what's happened here is that through corporatism and through shady, evil background dealings, this minority of thought, this woke mind virus, if you will, has infiltrated every aspect of our life. When you take a look at the S&P 500 and every company that's within that index, every single one of these companies is woke to a certain extent. And that's why our tagline is that we mitigate your woke risk as financial advisors. We can't, unfortunately, eliminate it. It's just too far-fetched and too infiltrated right now. So what we do is we put together a client's portfolio based on their desires, based on their goals, based on their risk tolerance to try to mitigate their exposure to wokeism. Because at the end of the day, it's our investments. It's the fees that we're paying to asset managers. It's the fees that we're paying to financial advisors that's going to support this incredibly small voice in an American culture, which is wokeism. And the reason that it's been infiltrated right now, they're a very small minority if you think about it, but they're very, very loud. Not only have they infiltrated Wall Street and big finance, but they've infiltrated every single industry, every single sector, especially those industries that are the ones that are broadcasting this message, like media and pop culture industries like music and film and whatnot. So it's just an amazing thing to be on the ground floor of this fight with you, JT, because we are really doing some great work for our clients. We're doing some great work for our culture, and we really do feel like we're doing some great work that's changing our industry.
Yeah, and I want to touch on what you mentioned a moment ago, which was your fees are going towards these woke ideologies. I think this is something that's extremely important that people need to understand. If you look at your IRA, your pension fund,
401k,
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You more than likely have invested Vanguard funds, BlackRock funds,
State Street
funds, et cetera. And I think it's about 80%. Those three asset managers, the largest three, own about 80% of the S&P 500.
Yeah,
right?
they're one of the top three holders of major stockholders of every position in the S&P 500.
Exactly. And so what happens is when, as you as an investor, you don't own the individual companies, you actually own a share of what's called an ETF, an exchange traded fund.
Or a mutual fund.
Or a mutual fund. But you've foregone your right to be a voter as a shareholder of that company. You've given up that right to BlackRock, and there's a fee that's associated with that, right? And that fee is what is actually funding the woke ideology that is more than likely antithetical to your values and beliefs. Now, the same thing goes with if you're working with a Morgan Stanley advisor, a JP Morgan financial advisor, et cetera. Whatever their fee is for the assets that they manage for you, just know that a percentage of those fees are also funding this wokeness that is antithetical to your values and beliefs. So we really started it out by blacklisting those asset managers and not working with them at all because they were the biggest violators of this woke ideology. But ultimately, we are on a mission to educate as many people as we possibly can to understand how your hard-earned money is actually being utilized and empower you to make a difference by working with people like us and mitigate that exposure to wokeness, because I guarantee you, and our results speak for themselves, that that clients don't want their investment dollars funding this. And when they find out about it, it really, really pisses them off.
Yeah, and a lot of investors don't really know that you have a choice. It's your money. You don't have to work with BlackRock. You don't have to work with Vanguard. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of asset managers out there that truly care about being a fiduciary. JT, explain a little bit about what a fiduciary is.
Fiduciary, it's very simple, is every single thing that you do is to act in the best interest of your clients, right? And in the instance of investment managers, that means that if you're taking an outside investor's money, you have a fiduciary responsibility to act in their best interest to maximize the value for that shareholder. Anything else is a breach of the fiduciary responsibility, something that we take very, very seriously.
So let me play this out with you. So say I own a ETF, and in that ETF there is a position in Target. Do I own the Target stock?
No.
Okay, great. Who owns the Target stock?
The fund manager.
The fund manager, great. So, and I'm paying the fund manager through what's called an expense ratio, correct?
Exactly.
And I'm also paying the financial advisor who recommended that ETF that holds Target, correct?
That's right.
So when Target, when their C-suite looks at their marketing plan and they say, we think it would be a good idea for us to put LGBTQ clothing for boys and girls right when you walk into the store. Is that a decision that is a decision that's in the best interest of the investor of the ETF, or is that a decision that's in the best interest of the shareholder, the ETF asset manager?
The asset manager,
right?
100%.
So is Target? Are they neglecting their fiduciary duty by going against the investor's conscious and investors' values?
Well, there's two ways to look at that, Doug, right? And yes, they are. If we're looking at their fiduciary responsibility to the fund manager, who would also happen to be the largest shareholder of their company, right? But there also are individual investors in Target. And when they implement things like that, they're in breach of their fiduciary responsibility.
Right. So it is kind of really amazing how this system works and how it's funded and why our leaders, let's use that word loosely, have decided to push this agenda because they know they can't push social and political change that really is around this woke mind virus through the ballot box because it just won't pass. So they do it through our investments, through our money. And they slowly but surely chip away at the foundation of our society. And it's something that is really what's drawn me and JT to this too, because we both have young families and we're trying to raise our kids with traditional values and conservative principles, and along with the fact that, America is an exceptional country.
The greatest ever.
The greatest ever. And we're really trying to instill those values and those ideas and that ideology and philosophy to our children. And that's great. We can control that at home. But the minute my daughter goes to Target or the minute my daughter goes to a Walmart or to even a football game, they are being attacked by wokeism left and right. And don't even get me started about social media and what's happening on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the other ones. that I don't use, by the way. But it's just very interesting to see that you can control everything at home, but as soon as you leave home, our kids are playing an away game, to use that analogy, and they're being attacked left and right by the evils of this mind virus.
They're being attacked from all different areas, right? From technology to the classroom. I mean, the media, the TV media, legacy media. I mean, you name it. They're being bombarded. They're being brainwashed. Right? 100%.
And now let's not even mention school.
That's exactly right. It's school, especially public school systems. And even unfortunately churches.
Yes.
Right. So, that's the other thing is be very wise in the church that you go to. If they're not practicing the word of God and they become progressive, then that might not be the right place of worship for you. There's a topic, Doug, that I wanted to pivot to that hits near and dear to me, which is DEI.
Yeah. What does that stand for?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I use that air quotes for a reason, because when you look up the difference between equity and equality, we're talking about equality of outcomes, right? And what is it? Equity?
It's a discussion between equality of outcomes versus equality of opportunity.
Equality of opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so many of you are probably familiar with DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion in hiring practices, or you've had to attend a seminar at work that tells you that, if you're a white male, then you're inherently racist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where it really hit home for me, and this will give you guys a little bit of story about myself. I was at a very large, respected investment management firm that I was responsible for hiring a team of sales professionals covering the Western United States. And there were 3 mandates that I was given for the hiring this team. 1, they had to have a bachelor's degree, but master's was preferred. 2, they had to have active securities licenses to sell investments. And 3, they could not be white males.
Now, did they put that on an email for you, JT?
I tried, and I saved some emails. It got this crazy, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, where the recruiter that we worked with, the internal recruiter, would literally filter out people with licenses, like on a spreadsheet, and filter them down by whether or not their name sounded minority or not.
Yes.
Okay, this is insane. And last I checked, I'm a white male, so I would not have even been able to hire myself.
So let me add on to that, because I remember being at the same conference you were at. This is probably about 10 years ago. This is kind of before this craziness even really started to kick up a notch. And I remember hearing our CEO say that he keeps getting resumes from white guys. Mm-hmm. And our CEO at the time is an African-American man, and he literally said he takes the stack of white male resumes, and guess what he did with them, JT? He threw them in the trash can.
Of course. Yep.
Now, if that's not racism, I don't know what is.
Exactly right. And remember, these sort of policies, they're not only affecting Doug and myself, but I have 2 young boys. Okay. And so if this madness continues, well, they're going to have a very difficult time finding employment in corporate America.
Exactly right.
Because and what I found to be more and more interesting as I did the research and I firsthand witnessed the company culture and the performance of the stock price, which was the more systemic this was across the company and these hiring practices, particularly for promotions and people running different business units, et cetera, the culture eroded, the performance of the stock price deteriorated, and you had a mass exodus of all the top quality people that worked at that firm.
All the great talent left.
All the great talent was gone.
They were pushed out.
Pushed out because of it. And now it's a shell of what it once was.
But here's the situation. They got pushed out, but they haven't improved their own situation.
No.
Because everybody is woke, and they went from one situation to another that may not have been at the level of wokeness that we were experiencing.
Right.
But it's a ticking time bomb.
100%.
So they may have changed the situation temporarily to make them feel better, and that's great. I'm happy for them. But there's going to be a day where the chickens come home to roost, and they're going to have to ask themselves a question. And the question is, am I a armchair conservative, or am I ready to get in the fight? Now,
Amen.
Just to let everyone know what an armchair conservative is. An armchair conservative is somebody who's sitting at home, watching Fox News, yelling at the TV, and just complaining about the world, and wish things were better, but they're not really doing anything. They're still reporting to their 9-to-5 job. Their employer is still woke. They're not making their voices heard. What we're doing is we're getting in the battle. And as you can tell from this podcast, is our very first one, that we're ready to promote ourselves and promote our ideology of, you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a conservative. There's nothing wrong with having traditional values. And oh, by the way, stop promoting your crap to my kids. It's absolutely not none of your responsibility. It's my responsibility to raise my children. So stop being an armchair conservative. I always call, obviously you can tell by the little doll on our desk here of number 45 and soon to be number 47. We're supporters of Donald Trump and we're supporters of the MAGA movement. And it really is a movement. And Make America Great Again, it's not a derogatory term. It's a term that gives us the dream and the vision of really achieving that American dream that our parents had, that my parents' had. Now, when we look at today's society and today's economy, do my kids have that same dream? I mean, debt is at an all-time high. People are making less money. People are losing jobs or working in a job that really is, debt slavery. Let's talk about it. You're exchanging your time for money to pay off the credit cards that you have because you can't afford your lifestyle. So what I really want to do is really build a society and a culture that gives my kids the opportunity to dream. And that's what, for me, Make America Great Again means. It's nothing about like being a racist or anything like that.
That's all BS
that stuff
propaganda.
Is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It started under Reagan, right? Which was just make America great again.
Make America great again.
It's a very, very, do you think about it, the fact that is even a controversial statement,
exactly.
It blows me absolutely away.
And you know what's so funny? For the last 2 years, JT and I have been extremely out front with who we are from a political standpoint. And we have ran into very few people who disagree with us.
Like, I can count on one hand.
Yeah, over one hand. So what I really want to do is encourage anyone who's listening to this is to, time to get out of your MAGA closet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stand up and fight.
Stand up and fight. There's more of us out there than you think there are. We're just afraid. So a lot of people are just afraid to talk about it because they don't want to have a Karen going in their face and say, you were racist, you're a misogynist, or whatever the term of the moment is. And let's just be honest. It's not true. It's not true in your heart. Just start communicating it. Start preaching it to your family, to your neighbors, to your environment, to your community, everybody. Just start talking about it.
Yeah, something that we've been saying since day one, which needs to be repeated, is we have God and we have the facts and the truth on our side.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So when you have those two things on your side, I don't care what the emotional this or that, or you're racist, or any of the BS propaganda that's out there trying to label us as this threat. If that Karen at Starbucks, wants to give me a mouthful, well, I just say bring it.
Yeah. And be a happy warrior.
Happy warrior. We have more fun probably than anybody on Wall Street. We laugh all the time. I mean, we enjoy our lives tremendously. As a matter of fact, the burden that was lifted the day that I left asset management and started on this side of the business was one of the greatest, most liberating days of my life.
It was true freedom. True freedom.
Yeah. True freedom. And we want to offer that to more. We actually, part of our value proposition and our mission to our clients is we want to educate you on what's happening, and we want to empower you to make a difference. And that empowerment isn't just through your investment dollars. That empowerment is through being bold and saying, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter, or yeah, I'm a conservative, or whatever, right? And don't let somebody tell you that there are 10 genders and you just have to go along with it, right?
Yeah.
You don't believe that. Don't be an armchair conservative.
Exactly right. And one thing I do want to touch on is, obviously we're Trump supporters, but if you're not a Trump supporter and you're conservative, you still have no other option right now. You
do, but it's like the worst option ever existed. Yeah.
The reason I love Trump is because I look at it from this point of view. I look at what happened to corporate America as an exercise in corruption. And when I see Trump, I see the anti-corruption candidate. When I see Biden, when I see Nikki Haley, when I see Ron DeSantis, whoever it might be, I see a candidate that is susceptible to corruption. So what I want is a candidate that says no to corruption. So Trump, for me, is the anti-corruption candidate, and that truly means he's truly for the people of this country. He's not a part of the uniparty. Obviously, you can tell that by all the lawsuits that he's in and how they're trying to put him in jail right now. It's just unbelievable.
Lawfare.
If he was part of the club, this wouldn't be happening. Because as of right now, it'd be an easy layup for him to win the election.
Yes.
And that's how you know he's not a part of the club.
Yep.
So
the other person that I think we can both say that we respect and articulates the Make America Great Again message better than Donald Trump himself is Vivek Ramaswamy.
he's fantastic.
He's fantastic. And many of you probably aren't aware of this, but before he put in his name to run for president in the primaries, Vivek founded an asset management company called Strive. They're a preferred partner of ours, where they provide the same type of ETFs, et cetera, that BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard do. However, they do it with a conservative tilt and primarily through the way that they exercise their proxy vote. So when we were talking earlier about how you've given up your right as a shareholder to vote on Target or whomever to the asset manager, right? Now you have an alternative like Strive where they're going to vote your shares the same way that we want them to, which is in a way is the very simple question. Is this going to maximize value for the shareholder?
Exactly right.
And that's it.
And it's really not even about being a liberal versus being conservative when it comes to Strive's methodology. It really comes down to doing what's best for the shareholder.
Yep.
And if you're Home Depot, right, or if you're XYZ company, let's just call it, right, don't worry about social change. Don't worry about affecting social change. Worry about producing a better service or a better product.
Deliver a good product.
Deliver that. And that's what Strive does is tries to really implement that philosophy to the C-suite.
Yep.
And get away from all this bull crap. We don't need it anymore, right?
Yeah.
We want you to increase the share price of your stock, right? We want you to be an essential part of our portfolios because an XYZ company may be a good fit to help reduce risk. It might provide an opportunity to reach desired outcomes. Whatever it is, whatever it's meant to do with inside the portfolio, focus on delivering that solution.
100%. And like a little story of mine to piggyback off that is in my last role in asset management, I was responsible for distributing investment strategies to what we called institutional investors. So asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and hedge funds and alike. And this was at the height of the ESG movement. Topic for another day, but stands for environmental social governance. This was the original way that they infiltrated the boards and they voted in ways and forced corporations to be woke, essentially, right? And in this role, I got a behind the curtain view of exactly what they were doing, and it shocked me. And the request for information and the due diligence process, they would overtly say, while we recognize that these companies are going to, or that these funds are going to suffer poor performance, we believe that the clients will be okay with that because they're making a change politically or socially. And back to fiduciary, right?
Right.
That is the definition of being in breach of your fiduciary responsibility.
Exactly.
And then they go out there and they promote these funds as if they're the greatest thing to ever happen, knowing that they're going to get their clients a suboptimal return.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, maybe we should start talking about it now with ESG, is in order for a company like BlackRock or Vanguard to put your company inside their portfolios, you have to have a good ESG score. So what happens is it's all game. It's all shell game.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone is compensated, and when I say everyone, the C-suites of these companies are compensated to have a higher ESG score. So that's why maybe I'll ask this question, and JT is a good segue for this story. Tell me why Budweiser or Bud Light hired Dylan Mulvaney to be a spokesperson for them, knowing that their everyday Bud Light drinker is a blue-collar dude that's changing tires and welding pieces of steel together. Why would they pick Dylan Mulvaney to be their spokesperson?
There's a two-pronged answer to that, okay? The first one is the fact that, once again, they were capitulating to their largest shareholders, right?
Now, who's that again?
BlackRock.
Right.
Okay. Number two, though, is where it gets a little more devious, and what I was alluding to earlier about when you implement these hiring practices, these DEI practices, and basically part of that DEI stuff is the more woke you are, and the better chances you have of getting promoted and being in a powerful position. Right. And so the woman, I can't remember her name right now, there was the one who sponsored Dylan Mulvaney and did that whole initiative. She's out now.
Yeah, she's gone.
She made like a colossal error in doing that. But that's how this stuff infiltrates from the corporate culture as well.
Right.
Right. And hey, a Bud Light, I'm sure our Bud Light drinkers would love to see a transgender guy that's, celebrating his 365 days of being a woman.
Your girlhood, I think.
Yeah, which by the way is offensive to me. Because
well, it's offensive to women.
To women. And that's what I was going to say is I'm a feminist from the standpoint that I believe in women's rights and I believe in all of this. And when we start talking about this crap, that's just the beginning, right? We can go on forever and talk about, men competing in women's sports because they just decided one day I'm a man.
Well, that's the other thing I want to talk about. Like Dylan Mulvaney and some of these trans folks and their vision of what a woman should be, what a woman should be. It's a caricature.
It's Barbie.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it's insulting.
It's insulting. It's insulting to women.
Yeah, 100%.
And the fact that people are out there that are kind of touching this, that are okay with boys playing girls' sports, that's ridiculous.
That's the whatever happened to traditional feminism.
Oh, that's exactly right.
It's killed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's over now.
Right.
It's just unbelievable.
I mean, any man by birth, let's call it that. I'll grace him with that term. That is in an MMA fight against a woman should be put in jail immediately. That is attempted murder in my view. Any man in a soccer match, in a basketball game, definitely I hope not football, amongst women is definitely gonna hurt somebody. It's a ticking time bomb. We've seen it in high school sports, especially in some blue states.
Seeing it more and more.
More and more. It's not good. I have a daughter myself, and I could not imagine having to compete against a boy. It just doesn't make sense, and it's not fair.
Absolutely, it's not fair. It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Is what it is, and that's part of our whole philosophy and being an armchair conservative or being a part of the solution, right? If you can sit around and yell at your TV all day and this and that, and you can have your strongly held beliefs, and God bless you for that. Quite frankly, right? I mean, we know that we are in the majority and that we're fighting the vocal minority, but people need to start standing up to this shit.
Yes.
They really do.
Yes.
And point out that's wrong, and don't be afraid of the backlash, right? I mean, the backlash. Look who you're talking to. Look who the backlash is coming from.
Right.
Right? People that are trying to destroy the fabric of our society.
That's right.
Right? So, I mean, for me, it's pretty darn simple. We hope that this is the first of many podcasts that we hope you guys will subscribe to and learn more about how you can not just be an armchair conservative, but how you can actually join the battle and the fight for making America great again. And we'll get more into other topics in the future about our investment philosophy and kind of how that works a little bit.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. If there's any one message that I want to get across to our listeners out there is that you're not alone. All right. If you're subscribed to this podcast, we would appreciate that. Probably means you are agreeing with a lot of things that we're saying. And I'm here to tell you, we've experienced firsthand, we're not alone. There's a lot of us out there. We just need to be more vocal, right? We need to stand up for what we believe is right. And we have to stand up for our families and to stand up for this country. And at the end of the day, as a union, we will defeat this terrible thing called wokeism. And it's just a matter of time. I think we're slowly chipping away at it. It's working. People are waking up to it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we need everyone to start standing up and to start caring about it, because if we don't do it, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose this country.
Yeah. And stop voting for the uniparty in Washington, D.C. Right. All these establishment rhino Republicans and the Democrats, they're equally as bad. They're all part of the same thing, right? Start looking at America First people and vote them in, and also get involved locally. That's actually where the Marxists and wokeists have been winning, is they've been winning at the local, state, and municipality level, from school boards and beyond. So that's where you can make your voice heard, but make your voice heard somewhere. But if you think, oh, because, I'll call him out. Lindsey Graham's out there all the time. I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a conservative or whatnot. He votes for every single war that exists. He votes with the Democrats on virtually everything. He is the definition of a rhino.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So when you find a candidate that you like, that you want to support, and you vote for him, and that candidate wins, hold their feet to the fire.
100%.
Keep them accountable. Watch what they're doing. Watch how they vote. Because what they say on the campaign trail is sometimes, and almost 95% of the time, different than what they do on Capitol Hill. So we have to keep these guys accountable.
100%.
And if they don't if we don't keep them accountable, next thing you know, they're in Congress for 50 years. And next thing you know, they become president.
Or next thing you know, they're waving Ukrainian flags
on the House
floor after they just passed $60 billion for Ukraine's war with Russia. But they refused to fund what was originally a $6 billion wall to protect our southern border.
Exactly right. So thanks, everyone, for joining us in this podcast. We hope you subscribe. We're asking you to enter the fight and join us in this battle for America.
If you want to learn more about the Lionheart team, you can visit us at wokemitigation.com, and the links to our social media are below. God bless you.
God bless, and get in a fight. Let's go.